Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday, and hope it's going to be a great one. It's Kenneth here, and let's see what's waiting for us at the waterholes today. I'll see, to kick off the action, we've got a few giraffes at Aldonio. I think they're still coming down to drink. I don't think they've finished drinking yet. But yeah, here we go. We'll see the typical giraffe stance. Bit of leg spreading as they gently lower that long neck down. The real stars of Aldonio are still definitely around. Wenzi, you'd like to know if the ossicones on the giraffe's head are flat when they're born? No. So when they are born, they are quite fluffy and definitely point upwards. I'd imagine at birth they may be a little bit softer, but as that bone starts to harden, but yeah, they come out straight. What you will see sometimes with older animals, specifically more bulls, but sometimes cows, is they'll damage the ossicone. So sometimes you'll see a giraffe with a bit of a skew or a bent ossicone, and obviously that will never straighten. It's quite an epic looking scene with these giraffes almost a bit in the distance and towering over the trees with the water reflecting their reflections. Quite a cool scene. Definitely screams African safari. I wonder what spooked the giraffe a bit. They seem to be looking almost over the camera. I think if I had to take a guess, it was probably maybe an elephant or something else. See, there's a gazelle slowly gliding through in the distance there, just on the edge of the open area. And there we go, there's the big stretch for a sip of water. Quite a vulnerable position for a giraffe to be in, but obviously drinking is a very necessary part of their lives. But also hence the caution from their side, why they're looking around so carefully trying to make sure it's safe to expose themselves or they get a sip to drink. Mindy, you'd like to know why their ankles are so light compared to the rest of them. So the main reason for that is actually the subspecies of giraffes. This species in Kenya, I must have double checked myself on the species, but they're known for having lighter legs. The pattern almost basically stops at you can call it their elbows or knees. So that's kind of a unique characteristic of these giraffe species compared to your giraffes in southern Africa. The pattern tends to go all the way down to the legs. Oh, there we go. Here's the rest of the actors. We've got a nice herd of eland coming in. Also a few zebra joining in. You can see the elephants definitely aren't dominating the waterhole too much today. It's giving everyone else a bit of a relaxed chance to get a sip to drink. Oh, and we've also got a gemsbok joining, or oryx. Ernest, you'd like to know how long is the gestation period of a giraffe? Also quite long, like an elephant. It's 15 months, so quite an extended period of time, and obviously also quite a a challenging birth for a giraffe baby, because it falls nearly about 2 meters. Well, it's almost a bit of free fall of 2 meters to the ground. So testament to how tough the babies are if they can handle that with obviously slight bruising. And after that, they're well on their way in the world of danger and excitement.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
And you can kind of see the animals also just moving out of the out of this giant's way, giving him the space and respect he deserves at the waterhole. Let's check my facts, but looks a bit like 1 ton, but obviously each elephant's quite unique. Obviously a bull like this is very noticeable, but yeah, he doesn't seem to be in much of a rush on this hot warm day in Kenya. It looks like he's slowly gonna sate his thirst and just take it easy. Obviously bad timing for all the other antelope. They're gonna have to wait their turn now. It's certainly such a treat to watch a large bull like this just go about his day. Especially from this profile, we can really see how long those tusks are. Those are incredible. I did do some digging. This is definitely 1 ton. So it's nice to have him joining us on the Sunday. A bit of a VIP guest. Or I should say we are the VIP guest. It's quite interesting watching him wriggle his trunk like that. I don't know if there's maybe something in it that's maybe bothering him, that he's trying to get out. Maybe a twig or something, a leaf. While we leave 1 ton to peacefully enjoy the rest of his drink, we're going to go over to Serendela and see what's waiting there. It looks like we've got some Nyala hanging around the waterhole here. Quite a nice educational moment. You can see a bull Nyala, a ewe that just disappeared and a young one. You can kind of see that middle transition phase. Interesting to note with the Nyalas that the males are called bulls and the females are still considered ewes but not cows, just kind of due to their size, etc. And I see they've darted off now. It was also quite nice to see, or interesting to see, that bull scraping his horns in the mud, etc. This is a bit of a dominance display that they like to partake in. Those Nyala have headed for the hills, but I see our resident hippo is still taking it quite peacefully in the water. I see his terrapin friends haven't joined them yet, but I'm sure they're waiting. It's quite interesting to note, last Sunday when we saw him here at Serendela, he was full of scars and they were quite fresh. obviously depending a bit on the angle he's lying at. I can't see much on this side. If I'm not mistaken, last Sunday he was at a bit of a different angle, but it looks relatively healed up. Obviously this depends on which way he's turned, but he does not seem worse for wear, that's for sure. See, we have the ever-present blacksmith lapwing, just slowly moving along the shoreline, picking up small insects. Monica, you'd like to know if you see scars on female hippos. I think maybe slightly, not definitely not to the degree you'd see it with male hippos, just due to the fights they get into. Obviously in a pod in the drier season when the water's a bit more scarce and they cramp up together, there might be a bit of jostling and fighting in the pod, and that might result in some minor scarring or bites. But yeah, definitely not to the extent which you would see on a bull hippo. I see we've got some impala at the back there. For a second I thought it was the Nyala, but since they headed in that direction, but those are definitely impala. And it looks like our hippo standing up a bit. This gives us quite a good idea of how shallow this waterhole is. It's not very deep. And that being said, also hippos will never really be in water that they can't stand it. Contrary to popular belief, that when you just see their head sticking out, they're not swimming. They're either standing on all four of their feet or their back feet. But and for them to move, they also always sink down to the bottom of the riverbed or ground and run along it like that. They don't actually swim along. It looks like he might be getting out. I know it is a bit overcast on the Lowveld today, so the sun is not beating down. We may find he's actually going to go lie in the shade, but yeah, not normal behavior to see at this time of day. You would think he'd spend the rest of the day wallowing in the water waiting until this evening. Seems like he's going for a bit of a stroll. While we leave our hippo, I think we're going to go to Camelthorn, where there's a fish eagle waiting for us. Oh, that's quite a nice sighting. We've got the fish eagle here. I don't know if everyone saw that, but as we moved here, there was a blacksmith lapwing bombing dive bombing the eagle. Clearly either got young or a nest nearby, and it's not at all impressed to have the fish eagle too close to its offspring or nest. Here we go. Oop. That was a near miss. This eagle is not popular. It's amazing how brave these lapwings are to take on a bird double or triple their size. But the lapwings are definitely justified in their response. Fish eagles are huge opportunists. They scavenge quite a bit and they'll take any opportunity they get. So it's definitely in their best interest to chase off or deter the fish eagle from spending too much time in this area.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
So drongos are quite fearless, and I think they're capable of a fair amount of more damage than a lapwing could possibly inflict. Pete, I don't think it's trying to fish necessarily from the edge. I did try to see if there's not maybe something, a dead fish maybe lying there, but I actually can't see anything. It might maybe just be scoping out, seeing if there is any fish in the shallows. It might have had a drink. You might have just missed that. I don't know if it's maybe hesitant to go down to the water's edge with the lapwings dive bombing it. But yeah, most of the time your fish eagles will catch a fish either in flight or they swoop in and grab it. Or if it's quite shallow water and they can actually see the fish, they'll pretty much just land on top of it and then drag it out. It's not so graceful to watch them drag a fish out of the water while they hobble along, but it gets the job done. I'm amazed that that this bird has tolerated the abuse from the lapwings for so long. Certainly waiting for an opportunity, but they are interesting. I remember once on a trip to the Chobe River in Botswana, we saw a couple of fish eagles, but one fish eagle actually caught a white-faced whistling duck, and then 3 separate fish eagles proceeded to fight over it in the air. So one would try to fly off, and then another one would try to snatch it from the other one mid-air. And I think that explains the lapwing's response to this fish eagle. They are, even though they do enjoy fish, they will quite happily munch on another bird. You can see some large bubbles in front of the fish eagle. I'd hazard a guess that those are probably catfish, and that might be what's got this fish eagle's attention. Maybe just waiting for an opportunity to grab one. I see we've got a wildebeest also drinking there. Chris, you'd like to know if the males and the females look identical. Yeah, this is also one of those bird species that it's almost impossible to tell the difference if it's a male or a female. The female will obviously be a bit larger, heavier, but I don't think it's something you'd easily pick up with a naked eye. In fact, none of the field guides really differentiate between the male and the female. So in those cases, that's generally not worth or there's not enough visual cues to aid in identification between the two sexes. It's interesting to notice this wildebeest grazing on the short grass that's growing here by the water. Obviously, it's quite fresh and nutritious because it's got there's a bit of water in the area, and with the morning dew, so that will mean that grass is continuously growing. It's a bit more fresh and nutritious. But in this case, the adaptation is the wildebeest has got quite a square lip, or square mouth, if you'd like to call it that, and that allows it to graze quite closely to the surface of the soil and eat relatively short grasses. The wildebeest is what you call a selective grazer, compared to a zebra, which is a non-selective grazer, or which will eat any type of grass, is not too picky, whereas wildebeest are very specific on the length of grass they prefer to feed on. And it's for that reason why they kind of complement each other during the migration, for example. With the zebra eating a lot of the grasses the wildebeest wouldn't be able to, or wouldn't want to eat, or be able to eat. And in that way also opening up and allowing for them to graze on the grasses they prefer to eat. So just another one of the ways that nature works in its mysterious ways for the system to keep ticking on. Clearly, the reason that this fish eagle's not flying off is I can think he's a bit hungry, but I think he certainly detects the potential of catching a catfish in this shallow waterhole here. At the same time, also, he's not too fearful of the lapwings. Like I said earlier, it's just a slight irritation he needs to pay attention to. He's kind of just weathering the storm. But I think he's carefully eyeing that water, maybe waiting for one of these catfishes to come a bit close to the water's edge, and that'll give him the opportunity he needs to pounce on them. Obviously, the catfish will be foraging and looking for small frogs or fish that they can eat, and they may chase them closer to the edge of the water, which is exactly what the fish eagle will be wanting. But I do think he's being a bit optimistic. This waterhole isn't showing signs of drying up anytime soon, and it's clearly more than deep enough for the catfish to hide from the fish eagle. quite comical watching him stare down the lapwings as they come for him. He just lines himself nicely up for the dodge, and then just quickly moves his head away from them. Another reason why he may not be so keen to take off, he may have recently eaten something. His crop does look a bit engorged, so he might also be a bit keen, or he's focusing kind of just digesting his food, doesn't necessarily want to take off. It's going to be a bit challenging for him, etc. And obviously digestion is quite an energy heavy process, so he's just happily sitting there doing his thing. Now, see, we've got a wildebeest having a bit of a mud bath.
Join me for a magical safari to India, a wildly exotic land of tigers, temples and Kipling. To start, we'll head to Pench and then to Doba to look for the famed Bengal tiger, as well as deer in the dappled forests, sloth bears and countless birds. We'll stay in stunning eco-lodges that blend luxury with a light footprint. Our Indian adventure culminates in Agra with a sunrise visit to the Taj Mahal.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a serviceman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Nathan mentioning how we've gone from hand fishing to spear fishing. Yeah, I think we've certainly seen a couple of adept fishermen of the bird or the avian world today. All we need is a kingfisher, and I think those are the top fishermen. Certainly looks like this heron's got his eyes on something, but if he starts to coil his neck, then we'll know he's getting ready. But it is relatively cold at the moment, and that's what allows him to strike so rapidly and quickly. all that stored energy being released from the muscles in the neck. But yeah, it's quite interesting what a grey heron will catch. Obviously, the grey heron sticks to water, and the similar looking black-headed heron will be more open grasslands. But I've seen videos of herons catching mice and rats, and yeah, essentially whatever will fit down the mouth will be taken up. But yeah, there's numerous instances of grey herons catching quite large catfish and other large fish. One thing that always amazes me is none of it necessarily braveness, but the willingness for the herons to enter the water knowing there are crocodiles around. But obviously their sight, and they've also got the ability to fly, keeps them out of trouble. But I imagine you'd have to be on high alert that you don't step on a crocodile in the shallows there. Melissa, you'd like to know if the rodents are still alive when they swallow them? Excuse me. No, they, like you said, risky. They will make sure that they kill them. So they'll either smack them against the hard surface. You also see kingfishers do it with fishes. But they'll make sure that it's no longer alive. Obviously, having something like that go down their throat and into their stomach that's capable of scratching and biting is less than ideal and quite dangerous. So they will make sure it's gone to a better place before they start to consume it. It looks like he's slowly lining something up. He's wading closer and closer. It's just amazing to watch the prowess of these birds as they slowly, stealthily creep towards their prey. Obviously, the heron's got all the time in the world it needs. There's quite an interesting, different type of heron called the black heron. Obviously, its entire plumage is a very dark shade of black, and it will kind of throw its wings up to make a shade in the water, and in the process all the small fish rush to the shade, and the black heron grabs the small fish rushing into the shade that is created. Quite an ingenious way of getting your food. Just slowly lining himself up there. Obviously also their feet can pick up vibrations in the water ever so slightly. So they are relying on all their senses, the eyesight, vibrations, etc., just to determine what's going on beneath the surface of the water there. Well, seems like he's given up on what his target was there. We're just in time for Sunday lunch with the vultures. I must say this is one of my highlights of the Sunday for me, watching the vultures come in. It's almost a bit comical watching them land and hobble along and bob towards their food. Certainly a bit less this Sunday compared to last Sunday. It's a piece of something that's been thrown to them. See, they're quite good at making sure all the vultures get their fill at Victoria Falls. Not that that will reduce the squabbling by any means. Oh, there's the feeding frenzy on the go now. Looks mainly like whiteback vultures. I see there is a marabou stork. Obviously he can only really stab and grab, so he's just waiting to pick up any scraps that the vultures tear loose from the carcasses there. You can kind of see how he's just waiting and watching to grab a bit. You can see a few hooded vultures also hanging around the fringe there. It is interesting to see the hierarchy taking place at the in this feeding scenario. You've got the whiteback vultures clearly dominating, and your hooded vultures waiting around for scraps or waiting till the whiteback vultures have finished eating so that they can pick off the smaller pieces, and then obviously just the opportunists like the marabou stork grabbing what he can. Looks like there's a bit of tug of war going between the one group. At one point there was 4 vultures tugging between each other. It's actually a bit entertaining to watch it as they bounce around in different directions trying to break it loose. And I think now that Sunday lunch is concluded, we're going to go over to Founders to see what's waiting for us there. I had a feeling the rhinos would be waiting for us. It's a nice present on a Sunday. It looks like they've finished most of their drinking activities. Doesn't seem like they've had a mud bath really. Got one of the bulls off to the left there, just resting in the shade. It's always very pleasant to just watch rhinos go about their business. I really do enjoy watching them just carrying on with the day. Looks like the little calf has got a bit more energy compared to the adults here. They seem to want to take it easy until it gets a bit cooler maybe. Just a reminder to everyone, it is a live and interactive show, so please continue sending through your messages and questions. Carmen, you'd like to know if these are the biggest of the rhinos? Yes, so these are your white rhinos or square-lipped rhinoceros. There is only 2 species in Africa, the white rhino and the black rhino or hook-lipped rhinoceros. But yeah, the white rhino is quite a bit bigger. If you ever see them side by side in the field, you will clearly be able to see that the white rhino is quite a bit larger. It's got a bigger neck as well. That's another defining feature. But yeah, they're much bigger. Obviously, just as a result of their different habitats, black rhinos tend to live in very thick wooded environments, and whereas white rhinos are much more open, grassy plains, and grass generally always tends to be a lot more nutritious. So possibly one of the many reasons why the white rhino tends to be a fair bit larger due to its accessibility to all the grazing it has. They do tend to struggle in the dry season, however, when things start to get quite a bit drier, and grazing is in short supply. So white rhinos do struggle a bit if it gets, if it's quite a prolonged drought. Whereas your black rhinos, in comparison, they're quite adaptive and flexible. That's why in parts of Namibia, in the deserts there are wild black rhinos living in the desert where there's very little to eat, actually. Wesley, you'd like to know if it's true that a rhino will stamp out the fire. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's heard that story before. I remember there was a famous movie years ago in the same situation where they had a rhino supposedly come stamp out the fire. I think it probably stems from a few old explorers' tales. If in the bush, if you had a fire and noise going on around a campfire, where a rhino would rush in and kind of see what's going on. They obviously don't have the best eyesight compared to their sense of smell and hearing. So generally they rush in and they discover the source of it. And I think that's probably maybe where that story stems from. But I think unfortunately in today's times, the way rhinos are quite persecuted through poaching, etc., they've become quite shy in a number of reserves. They won't necessarily approach humans. They tend to always flee or be very secretive and shy. But yeah, I'm sure it's just an old wives' tale, as they'd say. I don't think they intentionally can put out fires. Now this rhino is having a wonderful little mud bath. He's gone a whole different shade from grey to reddish light brown. It's almost like a new makeover for him.
Hi everybody, looks like we have just located on a beautiful leopardess known as Tlalamba. Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. This is action-packed.
Best sighting I've presented. I found myself with wild dogs. We chased the dogs around, chased them around. They ate an impala. We got the end of that. Then another impala went into Gowrie Dam down the road there, and the wild dogs went around. Eventually the impala came close to the bank. One wild dog went and grabbed it and then just pulled it out and just did what wild dogs do. It was an emotional experience, but it was very, very special.
rhinos wallow, or what's the frequency of the wallows? I would say daily. Obviously, the morning and the late afternoon sessions is reserved for feeding or grazing. But as soon as the day starts to heat up, a rhino will make its way to its preferred mud wallow. It's a great way of beating the heat and also dealing with a lot of the biting insects. With a bit of a caking of mud, it's almost like armor. And also, once they encase any ticks, etc., with the mud and go rub themselves, kind of exactly what this little calf is doing by rubbing itself now against the rock in the situation. It's busy rubbing off a lot of ticks that have been embedded in its skin. It's quite cool. Aside from rocks, they'll also use what people refer to as rubbing posts that a rhino will visit many times over its years of its life, and I think many other rhinos also will. But eventually that post gets quite a polished sheen and color to it. It's quite cool if you ever are privileged enough to see it. It's almost like a polished piece of furniture. Often if you do walking safaris in the Kruger Park, for example, they will point them out. It's a very cool thing to see and actually touch. Elephants will also do the same. Just unfortunately, sometimes elephants push over their rubbing posts. But I know also when I was recently in Pilanesberg, and on the map there was a kind of a site of interest, and it was a rhino rubbing post. It was quite a cool thing to see. It's my mentioning, or we can't see the tree now, but it looks a bit fake. The main reason for that now is just the time of year. It's winter, not much is growing. A lot of trees by now have dropped their leaves, but within a few months they'll start to sprout again as the temperatures increase. The new buds will start to blossom, but for the time being, the trees do look a bit barren and almost fake, but it's just dormant. I imagine some of these rocks have possibly been placed for the sake of the rhinos around the waterhole, so that they can just rub and scratch after taking their wallows. That tree actually possibly looks dead. Now that our rhinos have left us, I think we're going to go up to the hide and see if there's something waiting for us there. Another treat, some more vultures. Being quite spoiled with all the different vulture behavior we're witnessing today. So in this case, you can see the vultures are all taking time to clean themselves now. They've either bathed in the shallow water or in the dust here, and now they're carefully preening themselves. It's quite an important behavior or activity for vultures. They obviously their feathers get quite dirty, and all the carcasses that they feed and etc. covered in blood and other bodily fluids. So it's their feathers can get sticky over time, which obviously will impair their ability to fly. And the vulture that can't fly is obviously at risk of not finding food or being eaten by something else. So they spend a large amount of time maintaining their feathers and keeping them in a good condition, that they are always able to fly at the moment's notice. It's also interesting to note vultures tend to have very set specific places where they bathe or preen themselves. Obviously has to do with, I think, a lot of visibility, space for them to take off, etc. if a predator tries to ambush them. So there's always kind of recognizable spots. If you are looking for vultures, they should be there. For example, there's a spot in the Kruger Park on one of the rivers. The water becomes very shallow, so the vultures often gather in large numbers, and you can go there at any time of day, any time of year almost, and there will be vultures bathing and preening themselves. Liz, you'd like to know if the vultures ever groom each other? To my knowledge, no. They will congregate gregariously and spend time together at their, well, I don't know what the correct word is, grooming bathing spots. But I don't think they would engage in grooming each other. Maybe to an extent, the nesting pair, you might notice that type of behavior, where they slightly groom each other or kind of strengthen their pair bond. But I think vultures enjoy their personal space from one another. And you can see how a couple of the vultures in this situation have got their wings spread. Just kind of helps also restore the shape of any ruffled feathers, and also allow them obviously to dry if they've splashed a bit in the water. Appears like most of the vultures or here at the hide all appear to mainly be whiteback vultures. The older birds are quite a white color, and then the younger birds tend to be a dirtier brown. Keeping in mind though, the similar looking Cape vulture is very white, so it becomes a bit tricky to differentiate a mature whiteback vulture and a Cape vulture, but the Cape vulture is more commonly found throughout South Africa than it is up in the bushveld areas of Zimbabwe and Botswana. There's not too many Cape vultures around there. That's just mainly due to the fact that the way the different species nest. Your Cape vulture nests on the side of cliffs, whereas your other vulture species, the whiteback and the hooded, etc., nest in trees. So obviously stick relatively close to their breeding areas, although they can travel incredibly far in the search of food. Just found out, it seems like there's possibly actually a vulture carcass, sorry, not a vulture carcass, a buffalo carcass here. Can't see it too well between the damaged or the pieces of broken tree lying around. But it sounds like there was an altercation between a buffalo and a hippo. Just another example of how aggressive hippos can be near their water or their water holes. Well, I think while we leave our preening and grooming vultures to enjoy the rest of their Sunday, we're going to see what's going on at Lentor. See, we've got two very photogenic terrapins here for us, and they are just posing away on their log and enjoying some rays of sun. I must say these terrapins are a bit more colourful than the ones I'm used to seeing back home. Ours tend to be quite brown and dirty from all the mud that they, or mud and algae that the algae grows on their shells, but they tend to be caked in mud and muck from the water that they're in. And these ones are quite a nice, pretty coloration. Even their eyes are quite striking. You can see that one's tucking his head quite away, but it's quite interesting how much terrapins can extend their necks. They seem to have short, stubby necks, but when they really stretch their neck out, it's incredibly long, or a lot longer than one would expect. Also, important to note, terrapins have got quite a sharp or strong bite on them. They do sometimes look cute and harmless, but they do need to be handled with care. Looks like quite a wonderful day at Lentor. I see our local Hammerkorps aren't around to show off their skills on a Sunday. It would have been nice. That would have been another one for our fishing crew of birds.
Oh, wow.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
It's interesting to note the large amount of butterfly activity behind the terrapins on the edge of the waterhole, also coming down for a drink. Jim, you'd like to know, are terrapins are they a type of turtle? For all intensive purposes, essentially yes, they are a type of turtle. In South Africa, what we refer to as terrapins are your freshwater turtles, and your true turtles would be the ones that live in the sea, etc. And then, of course, you've also got tortoises. But yeah, for all intensive purposes, they are essentially a turtle. Obviously, there is distinct differences between true sea-living turtles. They've got flippers compared to the terrapins. We've got clawed feet, etc. Similarities, but they are still distinctly different. Melissa, you'd like to know if they shed their scales or shells. No, so they don't. It kind of just grows with them over time. Surprisingly, as simple as that. But while we leave these two terrapins to enjoy the rest of their peaceful Sunday sunbathing, we're going to go over to Tembe and see if the elephants are in show for us. As always, at Timber we've got some nice large tuskers here on a Sunday. Do believe it's called Timber Elephant Park for a good reason after all. And these two bull elephants are having a very peaceful Sunday in the pans here. They do not seem too bothered at all. You can see the bush is getting quite dry around the pans here. You see how the grass is turning quite a light brown or brown shade as the dry season's running its course. It's not too much longer before the rains should slowly start again. course, in this case, these pans hold water year-round in Tembe. That's why we always see elephants here, and there's a lot of wildlife always around here. See this bull on the side is stirring up the water there, and he's trying to get the mud disturbed a bit so he can spray himself with the mud, etc. Obviously he doesn't want to spray himself with clean water. He's after that mud to coat his body with for a bit of protection from the sun, and also relief from any biting insects. You see we've got quite a large egret in one of the pans to the base of the screen. It's probably your intermediate egret or great egret. It's a bit hard to see obviously with the scale and the perspective from the camera. Also got a lone nyala slowly sneaking down to the water. There's the rest of the herd. Nyala also definitely being very careful. There's generally a pride of lions that hangs around this waterhole, so many a number of nyala that have met an untimely end at the hands of the Tembe pride, waiting for their food to come to them. But they don't seem too worried. They seem relatively at ease. Linky, you'd like to know what diseases or ailments elephants struggle with the most. I'd say anthrax would probably be the biggest one. They've probably got the most chance of being exposed to that, and it's happened in a couple of national parks. In Kruger, in Etosha. Tuberculosis is another one they can be exposed to. Those are the common ones I can think of. I don't often come across sick elephants. Well, I think we don't pick it up too easily as humans, but I think the things that tend to ail elephants the most is probably injuries inflicted on one another when they get into fights with each other, or obviously, unfortunately, human induced injuries such as snares, electric fences can hurt them. So that's probably the biggest problems, but they are very resilient animals, and they will continue to go through it unless it's really, really a big problem. Pauline, you'd like to know why elephants have hair at the end of their tails. I guess it's quite a normal thing. Most mammals do have some form of hair, even though they do appear to be rather hairless. But the elephant's body is covered in small, little, short hairs. Obviously, also near their mouth they've got little bristles. I wouldn't call it whiskers, but it's also quite a bit of hair there. If you've ever had the chance to be up close to an elephant, I think being that close to a wild elephant is definitely concerning. It would probably be better to be near a tamer elephant if you were noticing that. But yeah, I'd say probably the biggest functioning for having hairs on the tip of your tail is it just increases its effectiveness as a fly swatter. If your tail doesn't have anything long and light, it can't swat those flies away. So that's probably the main reason for it. I can't think of any other reason, but it's quite an interesting texture, that hair. It almost seems like plastic or quite a hard material. It's not remotely a soft hair like you'd be familiar with from other animals. In many traditional African cultures, they actually make bracelets out of the tail hairs from an elephant. While we leave these two bull elephants to enjoy the rest of their Sunday peacefully, we're going to go back over to Aldonio. Quite sad now. As we were moving cameras, I noticed there were two jacanas walking towards the elephants. But anyway, got our giraffes here waiting for us. Lots of oxpeckers jumping about them. It's nice to see all three giraffes bending down. This is going to be short-lived with the elephant approaching. Well, these giraffes are more than aware of what can happen when the elephants approach, and they need to be given certainly enough space at this waterhole.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
My full name is Mpho Muthusi Tikani. I grew up in Soweto. My first animal that I filmed is a dog. Okay, no, it's my first animal that I filmed, I think it was an impala. Best sighting ever, I would say it was actually this year, 2024. But it was at this Cedric when we had Muluwati and TP on a warthog kill. I think we have to cut it.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Nimble and effective they are with their horns, but they are quite proficient weapons and defensive horns. There's many stories of lions that have been found dead in the Kalahari where they've been impaled by a gemsbok, and it too has died because it couldn't get itself free. But quite an image, I must say. I think while the giraffe and oryx mosey on, we'll go back to Lentor and see what our terrapins have in store for us. I see we are one terrapin short. This one's almost looks like it's walking the plank. I see its partner in crime is slowly approaching. Certainly looks like this terrapin is walking the tightrope here. A bit of a balancing game. For Porto, I'd like to know who's our host for today's waterhole. Well, it's me, myself, Kenneth. Recently started doing live at the waterhole with Wild Earth. But yeah, it's quite fun and I enjoy them immensely. I see our terrapin there took almost a somersault into the water. Almost feels like a diving competition. I would have given that one an 8 out of 10 perhaps. Only really minusing points on the big splash, but otherwise good technique. It's quickly climbing back onto the log. As quickly as it fell out, or fell off, it's come back. It seems like he's encouraging its partner to take its turn. I'm not sure if our terrapins are actually getting a bit amorous, or the other one is just in a big rush to get back to the springboard. This is certainly something I've not witnessed myself. I don't think many people have seen mating terrapins, but that's just once again the beauty of nature. If you take the time to sit at a waterhole and see all the comings and goings of nature, I think you tend to miss interesting scenes like this when you're always driving around or looking for the hairy scaries as they call them. It's quite peaceful and educational to sit and watch life go on near a waterhole. Certainly jostling for position there. If that terrapin was trying to conduct the mating ritual, I would say it was rebuked there, but he's going for the second attempt. Certainly quite a special sighting for a Sunday. Definitely on the unique side of the spectrum. Unless, of course, this is part of the synchronized diving act, and they're slowly heading towards the diving plank together. But I do think the other terrapin has got something else in mind. There's definitely a bit of a dance routine going on here. While that terrapin tries to lose itself of the hitchhiker behind it. It was quite a comical, entertaining scene. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. Hannah, you'd like to know what they use their tail for, swimming perhaps? I think to a less extent they might steer ever so slightly with it, but I don't think it plays a great deal or great role in swimming for them. You'd probably find the way that terrapins move in water, obviously they do swim a bit, but they probably also walk on the bottom of the floor quite a bit. So the tail is maybe not, is a bit more residual, and compared to your true sea turtles that don't really have a tail at all, it just obviously affects swimming in the ocean. But yeah, I think the word I'm looking for was vestigial, but yeah, it doesn't really serve a big purpose. I think if anything, they plod along using their claws to propel themselves on the surface or the bottom of the waterhole, and then also paddling along with their flattened feet. The tail probably could play a role in steering, almost a bit like a rudder, but I don't think it plays a massive role. Venus, you'd like to know how long they can hold their breath for. So it depends a lot on what they're doing and the temperature of the water. Generally, it's about 20 to 30 minutes. And if the water's also warm and they're really just resting, it can go up to an hour. But yeah, I'd say the ballpark figure is probably about 20 to 30 minutes. They'll hold their breath as long as they need to avoid predators, etc. And often you'll actually just see in the water, they'll just stick their little nose out for a breath of air and go back down to the surface of the surface of the water body. Hopotso asking, is it a good idea to keep them as pets? I think, as with most wild animals, they shouldn't be kept as pets. I think they should deserve to be wild and free. It's best to leave them in nature. I don't think terrapins are great candidates either, due to the ability to smell. Like we were talking about the marsh terrapin, they can actually secrete a smelly substance, and they're quite a painful bite. Also, they live very long, and I think a lot of terrapins outlive their owners. So probably not the best of pets, probably quite low maintenance, but once again, there's beauty in just leaving nature to be wild and free. In southern Africa, it's actually illegal to, or South Africa, sorry, it's illegal to keep any tortoises or terrapins, etc., without a permit. And even in those cases, to get a permit, it would actually have to be for scientific reasons while you have them in captivity. A lot of them are unfortunately endangered and threatened due to the illegal pet trade. Certainly a sad situation. It looks like we might see some more diving skills at work here. This one slowly ambles off to the edge.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
We've also got a very bold, ugly looking marabou stork. Shame. I know everyone refers to them as a member of the Ugly Five, and they certainly aren't winning any prizes for their looks, but they are definitely interesting in their own right. You can see that warthog's desire for green, soft grass is driving them slowly but surely further and further into the water. Let's just err on the side of caution. He's certainly at risk for a crocodile to snap him away. I know there's been a couple instances. There was the one that sticks in my mind was a herd of buffalo came to drink at this waterhole, and a crocodile tried to grab one of the calves. Obviously the buffalo wasn't in any danger. It was much too large for the crocodile to overpower, but It certainly shows you what's lurking beneath the surface. Sam would like to know if I live in a reserve and how long have I been a guide. So I do live on a type of reserve. It's a small property. There's giraffes and zebras and impala, other antelope, sometimes the occasional leopard, and we have hippos in the river nearby. So I do spend most of my time, fortunately, living in the bush. It's very fantastic. I haven't officially been a guide for a long time. I work full-time on a different job in the agricultural sector, but I often partake in part-time bird guides or bird guiding and other activities in the area with other people. But I think if you had to count all my years of experience of spending time in nature, it would almost be a lifetime. So maybe that counts as something, but it's certainly a privilege to live in nature like I do. That warthog is certainly enjoying his buffet at the salad bar on a Sunday. Can imagine that green grass growing in the water is quite nutritious and soft compared to a lot of the drier vegetation, if there is any really in the area. It's quite dry at the moment in Victoria Falls, so the water will be quite hard pressed to find other grazing. So he is having a very good meal. In the situation, aside from eating the grass, you'll find that it's also probably trying to dig out some bulbs and tubers that may be under the surface. A lot of the times it's not necessarily your true grasses that grow in damp, wet environments like this, but it's actually sedges. So that's what this warthog is probably feeding on, and there's more than likely rooting around for a tube or some nutritious roots as well. See, he's really going to town on those roots. I think we're going to leave our salad munching warthog to enjoy the rest of his meal. I hope he enjoys it in peace and the crocodile doesn't interrupt, but we're going to go back over to Lentor. Well, that's quite a nice sighting on a Sunday. A breeding herd of impala coming down to drink. You can see some of the younger animals in front. And once again, reflecting what I was saying about the younger animals lacking that experience and maybe that fear of what could be lurking. You know, all the animals tend to lurk back a bit and be more careful. But there's only one way you learn that lesson. Well, there's the male of the herd slowly coming in from the back there. Quite an impressive specimen. He's got a very large pair of horns. I see our diving terrapins are taking a break at the moment. It's interesting to note how often or how close to water impala will stay. It's always a bit of a survival tip. If you ever find yourself stranded in the African bush and you come across impala, you know there should be a water source roughly in a 2-kilometer radius. Up for debate how drinkable the water may be, but at least you know there is water in the area. Impala do not really stray far from water. They need to drink daily. I think in this situation these impala are quite safe. To my knowledge, there aren't necessarily crocodiles in this water body, but that natural instinct that they possess to be careful is ingrained in them. They're more worried about something like a leopard catching them from behind. Also, they do have very quick reflexes. I've seen a couple or some footage over the years where crocodiles have tried to pounce on impala and they very quickly and nimbly leap out of the way. Not all the time, but there's a great number of times they are able to get away from the crocodiles. Quite a small little breeding herd of impala, not a big one. They can get quite large, sometimes up to 30 animals, but once again just testament to their adaptability and success as a mammal or an antelope in the African bush. They graze, they browse, they are able to exploit a number of different food sources. Obviously their one small weakness being that they cannot stray very far from water and that they need to drink daily. But aside from that, I don't think there's a part of the continent you will visit or part of Africa that you'll visit where there aren't impala in the vicinity, except possibly the desert. I think now that our impala have left us, we're going to go back. We're going to go over to the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Center and see what the cheetahs are up to. Well, isn't that a wonderful sight for a Sunday? Cheetahs is taking it easy. They look quite comfortable. It is a bit windy today in Hoedspruit and overcast, but it's still very pleasant weather. The winters always tend to be quite mild here. You can see it's definitely warm enough or sunny enough that they're seeking a bit of shade, but everyone is taking a cat nap this Sunday, except maybe Mom. It's amazing how quickly these cubs have grown. I remember seeing them just after they were born. They were tiny little things. It's crazy how quickly they do grow. I'm sure there's many exciting adventures in store for these little cubs as they leave their enclosure in the future and face the big, exciting and scary world out there. think cheetahs would definitely have to be one of my favorite cats. I always get quite excited when we do get to see them.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
My full name is Emojis. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I want a camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
This is live and interactive, so everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you would like.
The session this Sunday, just watching some very graceful cats take it peacefully. You can see someone shifted themselves a bit now. Still very much dozing off there. Looks a bit more comfortable than it initially did. I think I definitely prefer my pillow and mattress than some sand in the log, but you've got to make do with what you can in the bush. Moonbeam Smith. So one step closer to being released into the universe at large. I would assume so. Obviously in the next enclosure they'll be exposed to opportunity to practice their hunting skills, etc. And that they can prepare themselves for the large and scary world out there. It's always very tough being a cheetah. Many cheetah introductions and other reserves are always met with a bit of trepidation and excitement, especially when there's other predators like leopards and lions present on those reserves. It's not easy to be a cheetah, but they are very adaptable cats that do very well. a lot of people say, for example, the Kruger Park isn't ideal cheetah habitat, but then again, there's a very healthy and robust population of cheetahs that make the Kruger Park their home. I think actually one of the places where I've seen the most cheetah in my lifetime is generally the Kruger Park, but yeah, it's not an easy existence. There's plenty of lions and leopards in the Kruger Park as well. But for now, at least they can have a peaceful Sunday and snooze away their problems until tomorrow morning. But I'm sure they're in for quite I wouldn't call it a rehabilitation program, but similar along those lines. Maybe the correct word is more rewilding. I think while we leave our snoozing cheetahs, they seem to be doing well. We're going to go spend the last few minutes of the show at Tembe. I'm sure the elephants have got something in store for us. Well, got a bit of roughhousing taking place. Quite a younger, smaller bull, testing his strength against quite a larger, bigger bull. This is definitely play fighting. Well, I would hope so. It's not going to go well for him if he's about to get serious. He will definitely lose this fight hands down. A bit of a pause in action there. Maybe realized he does not have the upper hand. But it's through these ways that younger bulls learn their strength and the hierarchy. Obviously the bigger bulls will rule the roost and have first access to females. It does slightly go out the window when a bull comes into must. But play fighting is how it's done. I wouldn't call this too much of a serious fight, but there is definitely a lot of weight being thrown around here. I'm just reminding the younger bull who's in charge. But neither of these bulls are very old. I'd say the bigger one is probably starting to come into the middle or the prime of his life, but he's still got some growing to do before he's one of the large Tembe tuskers. The younger bull is definitely thrown in the towel. I'm certainly not afraid to try stand his ground, but it's not going to go well for him. You can just immediately see that size difference in the larger bull on the right. Here they go at it again. You can see the impala in the background aren't too phased about this wrestling match taking place. Things seem definitely rather calm again. It looks like that's probably how our show will end today. Bit of excitement, but it's really been a great and peaceful Sunday afternoon, and I hope everyone else has a further peaceful Sunday afternoon and enjoys the live drive later this afternoon.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We're heading on a journey through some of South Africa's loveliest nature havens. We'll discover some interesting fauna and flora while being astounded by Africa's beauty. Our locations are unique and diverse with jaw-dropping landscapes and fascinating wildlife. At the cutting edge of conservation and ecotourism. If you like what you see on Safari Spotlight, you can visit these wild and special places. We'll send you on a dream safari.
We're going to go over there and we're going to notch a rhinoceros. And what that means is we're going to film it. The conservation team here is going to take a couple of